I'm waiting for the lacquer to cure on about a half dozen guitars, so in the meantime I'm going to start working on a little soprano ukulele. It's not for anybody, I just want to have one laying around in case someone comes looking. I'm going to use some very old Douglas fir for the top. This came out of a house, it's reclaimed material. It came out of a house that was built in 1910, so that means the wood was cut at least 115 years ago. It's really well quartered, very tight grained, and I've used this on several instruments, both ukuleles and guitars, and it's made great sounding instruments wherever I used it. So pretty optimistic about that. I've already inlaid a little rosette with some abalone and then black, white, and red purfling lines inside and outside of it. So that's going to be my top. For the back and sides, I had a tiny piece of Bois de Rose. It's a rosewood from Madagascar, but not what we typically call Madagascar rosewood. And it's just barely wide enough when I join it in the center to use for the back on this instrument. I typically have not used, actually I've never used rosewood for a ukulele before. It always seems kind of heavy to me, but I do see a lot of them in the intranet world with rosewood backs and sides, so I figured I'd give it a try. So that'll be the back. I've already bent the sides and joined them together with the tail block and put in the kerfed linings. So those are set to go. Tiny thing, isn't it? It's only just a little over 6 inches across. 6 1/4, I guess. So the sides are ready to go. I keep them locked in a form until I'm ready to go to the next step with them. It helps them maintain their shape. So the next thing I'm going to work on is the neck. I've got just a common piece of Honduran mahogany. It's going to be a one-piece neck, and what I like to do with ukuleles when I can, if there's no cutaway involved, I'll make a Spanish heel where there are slots cut into the neck and then the sides just go into those slots. It makes an extremely solid and permanent joint. You don't ever have to worry about it loosening up, and I think because of the fact that it's so solid, it makes for a better sounding instrument. You don't lose any vibrations with a poorly fitting neck joint. So that's typically how I do my necks on ukuleles. I put a Spanish heel on them just like on a classical guitar. So that's my next step. I'm going to figure out exactly where the 12th fret is going to sit, and then I'm going to cut a couple of slots at a 5-degree angle. Well, I guess not a 5-degree, but an 85-degree angle to the center line, and that'll allow the sides to be fit into it. So that'll be next. Soprano ukuleles usually have a scale that's somewhere around 13.5 inches, and that's what this is. So I see where the peg head ends, and line this up with the end of the peg head plus the width of the nut that'll be there, and that then shows me that my 12th fret, which is where the neck joins the body, is going to be right there. So I will now I'll mark the taper of the neck, mark the taper of the fretboard onto the neck, and then I'll cut the slots so that the outer edges of the fretboard hit right at the 12th fret. This is the same setup I use to cut the Spanish heel on a classical guitar. I've got the fence on my table saw sitting here, and then there's a piece of wood clamped to it so that the neck itself can be free of the fence when it goes through the saw blade, because I don't want any binding to happen. And I've got the neck clamped to the miter fence, or the miter gauge. I've got the height set right where I want it, so I'll cut this side and then turn the miter gauge around and clamp the neck back on. It'll butt up against this piece of wood again, so I get the slots lined up exactly across from each other, and they'll be the same depth because I'm not going to change it on the saw blade. So this is where the sides will be attached to the neck, and my next step will be to shape the foot that'll be inside of the body of the instrument.